thank you guys for talking to me. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed what I've seen of season 2. So,
Good. Well, that's a good start.
Yeah, that's great. Very appropriate background for sci-fi-vision.
Yep. Thanks. So at the start of the season, obviously Dr. Bishop is not there. Can you sort of both talk about how that's going to affect the other doctors without having their leader around, and sort of how that changes the dynamics in the hospital?
Well, I think for Bashir, it's very much it's a very scary thing not to just have his his surrogate father figure, his mentor, and this man who's been a pillar in his stability in the hospital. But as as John has stated, like, he's also his lifesaver. He's the one who protects him from all of the politics and the bureaucracy of the reality of his life, which is that he doesn't have access to his medical transcripts. And if Bishop is no longer there to protect him and to help him through that and navigate the requirements that the Canadian medical system has, like, it's curtains for Bashir as well. And there's this dependence on Bishop. He hired all of us, Theo, June, and Mags. He hired all of us, and everybody is affected by the potential of him not making it through this medical episode.
All right, and John, if he does come back, what I want to know is, how important is his job to him? Because obviously, even if he does wake up, he's not going to be able to go straight back into whatever his job. So how important that is to him, and how will he deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, that his job has been and still is number one thing in his life. It's what he's sacrificed his marriage and his relationship with his son for, and it was the thing that predicated the choices that he made in season 1, and those choices have to be faced in season 2. But you don't spend that long running a department without learning, the politics of a large corporation, which a hospital is in a lot of ways. So it's an interesting kind of sidebar view that we get, of this medical world and these people in this medical world who are constantly dealing with life and death. And Bishop has not so much an existential, he's kind of come through that crisis, but philosophical crisis. And what does he do now if he does indeed give up this position, which he certainly wants to fight, because he's old dogs and new tricks. It's not something that he wants, or power and madmen, whatever way you want to, whichever analogy you want to use. He certainly doesn't want to give up that power. And as Hamza was saying, there are people who are dependent on his protectorate for themselves as well, for their position. As I'm sure you're aware, in any organization, when a new boss comes in, the first thing they want to do is get rid of everybody who was here under the old boss.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and speaking of bosses, Hamza, can you talk a bit about Novak and kind of all the problems that brings, having him as the new leader?
Yeah, absolutely. So Novak's approach to medicine is just so different to Bishop's, but Bashir also feels a kinship to him, because he's served as a trauma surgeon and emergency doctor in the parts of the world that he comes from, with Doctors Without Borders and everything like that. So he's aware of the realities that Bash dealt with as this frontline doctor or trauma surgeon in a war-torn country. However, because Novak does have this history with Dr. Bishop, there's an unwavering loyalty that Bashir feels towards Bishop, and because of that loyalty, he can't really trust him fully either. He knows that it kind of becomes, you kind of have to pick a side, and there is no there is no transplant that exists. There's no version of transplant that exists where Bash will not be taking Bishop's side. So regardless of whether the fact that it hit, you know, Novak is his new boss, regardless of whatever similarities they have with each other, you know, Bashir is ride or die with with Bishop, and we see how that affects not only Bash's relationship with Dr. Bishop, but obviously with Novak as well.
Right.
The two scalpeteers, eh?
Hey, that's pretty good.
And John, can you talk a bit about the animosity between your character and Novak?
It's not so much animosity. I mean, there's some history there. Obviously, they crossed paths years before, and as Hamza was saying, there's a similarity there that they have, given, you know, Dr. Bashir's been in a war zone, and Dr. Novak is someone who similarly kind of runs fast and loose with procedures. I mean, if Bishop is someone at this point who has been economical with the truth in terms of his own conditions, it has been for what he thinks is the best in the sense of maintaining a stability in the hospital. I think he holds on to some history of Novak as being someone whose idea of the best is for himself rather than for the patients. So there's a history of slight animosity there, which has to be dealt with, has to be worked through. And it certainly puts my universe in some danger if I do end up having to step aside. But that's something that, given, as I was saying, how important my job is for me, that's something that I will do all I can to maintain, to hold on to.
Okay. And Hamza, can you talk about his fiance coming back? And does he have kind of any trepidations about that and how that's going to affect things?
Absolutely. Like there's this tug of war going on, right, about the life that Bashir's creating for himself and the one he's moving towards, and where he thinks he's going, and all of a sudden he's got to look back towards something that he thought he had lost. And I think the excitement and the possibility of him rekindling something that he grieved at one point is something that he dives into head first, and we see him take immediate action to try to get back to a place where he was, and potentially a place that he no longer is. So there is a lot of hesitation there, because you know, he's constantly doing this cost benefit analysis throughout the show, about the pros of Rania coming back versus the cons, and the implications that it has on his life as it is today versus where it was before the war in Syria.
All right. And John, can you maybe tease a bit about Bishop's relationship with Claire and maybe how she's going to, you know, go to bat for him, or how that's gonna, can you tease a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, they have some history, and they have some physics, they have some biology.
Yeah.
And Bishop gets a second chance here. This is, you know, kind of like the second chance he has with life. It's a second chance to look at the choices that he's made and possibly revisit some of those, which we pretty quickly find out that that's where they want to go. That's the road down which they both want to travel. However, without giving anything away, the road to true love does not always run smooth. So there are some bumps and twists on the way that you will see later on as the show develops.
All right, fair enough. So one thing I want to ask both of you is it hard to pretend to do medical things and actually look like you know what you're doing? How difficult has that been as the show's progressed from the beginning, getting used to doing that? Hamza, then John.
Well, we're very lucky in that we're so well supported and helped throughout that process, like everywhere from the accuracy of the scripts to the you know, our our props team who make sure that everything is in its right place, then we can grab and everything. But every medical procedure that you see us execute on the show, we have a full boot camp in which we choreograph every little thing with the lines, with the way that it's going to go, with actual working medical professionals, doctors, surgeons, and we bring in people who are oftentimes, if we're doing surgeries, we bring in people who have performed these surgeries numerous times, and can share us their and their particular way of doing it. I mean, there's any basketball player can come in and tell you how to shoot the basketball their own way, about finger placement and everything like that. And it goes the same with doctors. We're just like, well, I like to hold the scalpel this way. A lot of people do it this way, but I do this, and I use this finger to open the cavity and everything like that. And it's just like, these are these like little nuanced things that you can only get from somebody who's doing it in real life. And we get access to that so frequently. As many patients as you see on the show, that's how many medical rehearsals that we do collectively. So it's quite extensive, and after a little bit of repetition, it becomes not second nature, but that's the job. It's just it's a choreographed dance with a lot of Latin in it.
All right, John.
Yeah, I mean, everything Hamza says, and great respect to the professionals who are there to help us. We also have, as actors, have a responsibility to try and be as truthful and honest, to pay homage to the work that these guys and girls do. The one thing I would say is, like some procedures might last 4, 5, 6 hours. We've all read about these types of surgeries, which, of the more complicated ones, that they are going to have that kind of timeline, which obviously, if we're doing a 1-hour show, it has to be, truncated, which is the nature of TV. So, the professionals will be sitting there going, oh my God, that bit already, it's like 2 hours before we're like moving that out the way to get to this. So, we take our responsibilities very, very seriously. We turn up on our days off, as do the medical professionals who are all working doctors, and the theatre nurses who are with us. Most of them are actual theatre nurses, as opposed to supporting artists. So they know what they're doing. I mean, as Hamza says, we spend our Sunday choreographing that job, and everybody knowing where they're going for the camera, because that's the other character in there. But the one thing that we have to play fast and loose with is the time.
Because they say X-rays up.
Other than that, sorry?
I'm just saying, like, every single time, like the biggest complaint is just like, all right, running an X-ray. All right, X-rays up, and it takes like 10 seconds on TV, but it's just like, no, that's like that's several minutes.
But, but some people just get off on like figuring out, continuity errors or like reality time checks like that, but it's TV. This isn't, a 16-part Netflix documentary about how to remove and repair, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And if you're one of these people who notice medical anomalies on our show and we didn't do correctly, congratulations.
I don't know. Does it ever make you feel, though, like, I mean, you guys do hard things. You don't do, I guess, easy medical things. But have you gained any medical knowledge that makes you feel like you could do something if I don't know, an emergency arose? Does it kind of give you that complex? No, he says no. What about you, Hamza?
Hamza probably does.
I think, yeah, like
he's done a lot more than the rest of us, actually. So he could probably stitch somebody up.
I think there's just an arrogance to thinking that I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I could, but I'm just like, I mean, I've said time and time again, I'm like, gun to the head, I could probably intubate somebody if I had to. Like, I probably could. I practice stitching a lot, and we didn't actually get to do it a lot on the show, but when they said that I would have to, I did it a lot. I took a lot of like practice skin and a lot of
fun doing that, wasn't it? And again, different doctors have different techniques of doing that.
Yeah, and it's
just
fun,
to talk.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, Hamza.
It kind of like on set when you're just in between and kind of don't know what to do. It kind of becomes like this fidget spinner where you're just like, okay, cool. I'm just practicing.
Hamza stitches his own leg.
And
just
trouble is finding stars.
Just to
Like,
talk for a minute also about the strangeness of the conditions that we have to deal with. Any doctor, any nurse that you talk to about A&E, from Thursday to Sunday, they're dealing mostly with drunks, which doesn't make for the best TV. So, you know, like when you're not seeing a character in the show, they're somewhere else dealing with a drunk.
Yeah.
All right.
Or
Well,
a
maybe
construction worker who's got a nail in his foot.
well,
And I
hopefully you
don't mean
won't
at
end
the
up
end
in
of his toes.
emergency where you'll have to try to use it at any rate.
Mhm.
All right. Well, if I could ask really quick, can you both describe your character in 3 words? And then we'll wrap up.
Bullish, blunt. That's 2. That's all I need.
Okay, well, that's good.
Well, that's perfect. I would say impulsive, caring, and dedicated. That's all they came. Yeah,
All right.
probably mostly impulsive though.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, both of you. I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Bye.